Hey guys, welcome back to RUE MORGUE TV. Executive Editor Andrea Subasati here, and we've got a great episode for you. But first, I'd like to announce our new deluxe subscription package. A deluxe subscription package to RUE MORGUE magazine gets every issue delivered to your door, free shipping as always, as well as access to the digital edition. But you also get access to all of our back issues digitally. All of them. That includes our rare issues, our sold out issues. So you'll have access to all of that in the new deluxe subscription package. So check that out in the link below and enjoy the episode. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to another episode of Tarot here on RUE MORGUE TV, where we look at the use of tarot cards in horror films. And I'm your host, Laura HOKSTAD, an intern here at RUE MORGUE magazine, as well as a tarot card reader. And today we are going to be looking at the 1998 indie British horror movie, Razorblade Smile. Razorblade Smile was directed by Jake West, and he's a horror documentary filmmaker who has also directed some fictional films as well. He contributed to the film ABCs of Death by directing the S sequence. He also directed the film Doghouse and a film called Evil Aliens. This was his first film out of film school, and he cast Eileen Daly as the lead femme fatale vampire assassin. She has a very lengthy resume as well, and starring in indie horror films. She's played a vampire in over 10 films, and if you look her up on her website, she refers to herself as the Judy Garland of horror movies. The film follows Lilith Silver, who is a vampire that makes her living as a hired assassin. And she navigates this world where she works in the shadows, in that she doesn't let anyone know she's a vampire, but she also associates herself with a group of people who wish they were vampires. And there's a lot of conversation at the beginning of the movie about vampire cliches, like turning into a bat or turning into mist.
I'm talking about what shape-shifting really is. The ability to act with the cunning of a wolf, to fly high as a bat, but not to magically transform into one.
Can't believe your bullshit. Think about what Bram Stoker wrote.
Fuck Bram Stoker.
And the movie kind of comes across as quite self-referential, and that was actually done on purpose by the writer and director. He's been interviewed and has said that he wrote this film as a response to a lot of the cliched vampire films that were coming out at the time. In one scene, we follow Lilith as she is completing one of her hired jobs. So she sneaks up on this guy who is in the bathtub, and she proceeds to feed on him and kill him. And what she's supposed to do is take this ring that he has that has an eyeball symbol on it. And it's very important. This was like her main goal, was to kill him, get the ring, and get out. After Lilith feeds off of her victims, she also comments on their blood type. She's almost like a connoisseur of blood, if you will. She has some thoughts on it, on if somebody has too much iron or what their blood type is. So I find that's a really interesting choice for her as a character, which is always really funny.
C minus, to irony.
As Lilith is making her escape from the manor, she runs into two bodyguards, and this erupts into a pretty epic gun battle fight sequence, after which we hear one of the first of many of Lilith's kind of zippy one-liners. And the writer-director of the film did this on purpose as well, because he was interviewed in saying that he wanted her to be almost like a James Bond figure.
Anyone for tennis?
Keep an eye out for many more of her little quips along the way if you watch this movie. We then cut to a group of shadowy figures meeting and discussing a string of recent murders that have been happening. And we're introduced to Sethane, who seems to be the leader of this group that call themselves the Illuminati. and they're discussing the fact that many of their members have been being killed off. In order to get to the bottom of what's been going on, Sethane decides to pull some tarot cards to see if he can discover who's behind these murders. The deck that we see Sethane using is the Thoth or Toth tarot deck that was designed by occultist and magician Aleister Crowley. It was also illustrated by Lady Frida Harris in the early 1940s. And I'm saying Thoth in this episode because kind of the jury's out on how to properly pronounce it. It is based on an old Egyptian god, and so some people call it Thoth, some people call it Toth. It is kind of like the GIF or GIF of tarot cards. Okay, now let's get to business. The cards pulled during this reading is the Ace of Discs or Pentacles, and this card represents the beginning of something or something being created. The next card is the Magus or Magician, and Aleister Crowley describes this card as having the elements of the Witch's Desk. So on this card we see all 4 suits that are present in tarot. And this card is kind of representative of a magician in the way of an illusionist. So there's a bit of a warning with this card to beware of this person because they can kind of be a trickster. Then there's the Fool card. And the Fool card is the first card in the tarot deck. And in this tarot deck specifically, it represents the beginning of a new experience that can seem chaotic, but isn't necessarily dangerous, unless you're naive. So there's a bit of a warning with this card, like tread lightly, but beware. Then we have the Lovers card, which is about this deep soul connection between 2 people that is very passionate, but can also be destructive. The last card that we see that also has a very dramatic zoom in on is the Death card. And we see the Death card used quite a bit in horror movies to foreshadow, but also I think to kind of scare the audience member because Death card sounds so scary. But it really isn't meant to be a physical death in the sense that we would think it. It can also be a rebirth. After the tarot card reading, Sethane proclaims that they're not dealing with a human, that they might be dealing with a vampire. We then follow a character named Bryce, who has a nickname of being a little bit of a Van Helsing of sorts. There's this strange exchange between him, he's a detective, and his detective partner talking about their nicknames.
Being the new Van Helsing fearless vampire killer. No, it is a joke, isn't it?
Must be. Well, you know what the lads are like, always taking the piss. What is it they call you?
The horror film man.
He's been hired by Sethane to investigate these strings of murders. And so the rest of the movie kind of takes 2 paths. One, we're watching Bryce kind of with this cat and mouse game where he's chasing down Lilith, but she's always 1 step ahead. And then the other part of the story is Lilith investigating the meaning of the ring and who this shadowy group of Illuminati people truly are. So the end of the film, we find out that Lilith has tracked down the Illuminati and she kind of descends onto their hideout, brandishing katanas, double pistols, and of course her rapid-fire wit.
A+. Oh, at last, some full-bodied vintage stuff.
The climax of the film takes place between her and Sethane, and we discover that Sethane has killed Platinum, who is somebody that she had a relationship with, but was also kind of her contact that would give her her assassin missions. And then a few other revelations come to light. Now, stay with me because this is where the movie kind of gets a bit convoluted. So Sethane killed Platinum, and Platinum was Lilith's contact for her getting missions of who to assassinate. But then we find out that Sethane had also hired Platinum, so not only was he hiring Platinum to have Lilith kill members of the Illuminati, but he's also the leader of the Illuminati. And then he also hired Bryce because he knew that he was an incompetent investigator so that he wouldn't really be able to figure it all out. I think, yeah. And when this all comes to light, it proves to be too much for Bryce and he ends up shooting himself in the head.
Well, I think he turned down a good deal.
So I do want to say one more thing about this film, and stay with me because it may be a bit of a stretch. But I think that Lilith's character also embodies the magician card in that she uses almost the different elements in tarot as ways in which she kills people within the film. So for cup energy that's associated with water, I would say that her draining the blood of her victims would be bringing that kind of like cup energy. And then I would say for swords, she does end the film in this epic sword fight. So she's kind of killing some people with swords. And then also there's the pentacles, which is earth energy. So for that one, I could say maybe her using guns, because bullets are metal and that comes from the earth. So that could be the pentacle energy. And the final one would be wands. And wands are associated with fire. So there is a scene in which she lights her ex-lover on fire. So also I could say that could represent wands. So let me know if you think that's a bit of a stretch. Could you interpret more of her assassin behavior in the magician card? I'm interested to see what you guys think. That kind of wraps up my thoughts on Razorblade Smile. This film is not perfect by any means, but it is campy, bloody, and really fun. In terms of their use of the tarot cards, I think that they use them very well, and I was able to get some deeper meanings out of the cards that they chose. I always think too, there's so many cards that they could have chosen to put out in this scene, and it does feel very purposeful when you look at what the cards mean and how the movie plays out. So I would definitely say that this film did very well in that regard.
I've learnt a lot in the last half a century.
That's another episode of Tarot Tarot here on RUE MORGUE TV. Please remember to like and subscribe for more content. And also, please leave any comments below on your thoughts of my reading and interpretation today. Or if you've seen this movie, please let me know maybe your favorite fight scene or your favorite Lilith one-liner. I'd love to hear it. And as always, if you have a movie in mind that you'd like me to cover for this show or for this series, let me know that as well. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Laura HOKSTAD. Join me next time and we'll see what's in the cards. Be negative. Too much iron.
One more time, waiting for some kind of a transport truck to go past.
Oh, this is a better one, I think.
I love that you tried it.